Okay, welcome back to the Reality of podcast, where we talk about everything from parkour to Tesco meal deals.
And this week it is the reality of sponsored athlete Jazz Mccready.
Welcome,
Hello.
Jazz.
Thank you.
Hello. Nice to have you on. Do you want to just kind of talk about yourself a little bit? Introduce yourself to the viewers who might not quite know who you are just yet.
I was sponsored by Team Reality a couple months ago, so I'm a sponsored athlete for them, and I've also been coached by them for nearly 11 years now. I think around like 10, 11 years, so it's a pretty long time. And parkour takes up most of my life now, so I do also like photography as well, so I feel like that goes pretty well together with parkour. So I'm 15 and I've got my GCSEs in 30 school days.
Looming.
Tense times.
Yeah.
But you know what comes after the GCSEs? It's the longest summer of your entire life.
Freedom until college.
3 months of freedom. So we expect some banging videos this season for sure.
Yeah. So obviously you mentioned
Flinging
that you started off as a student. I think I remember you with very long hair, probably as a 6-year-old, I think. 6-year-old. Very, very young. I vaguely even remember your brother being in nappies. And he's already... How old's your brother now?
Is 11.
11. So yeah, so that proves that you've definitely been taught for about 10 years. So what kind of... what pulled you into the parkour world, do you think? Or can you even remember?
I think my mum saw a poster and I was a very hyperactive kid, so it fit pretty well together. So she brought me to one of the sessions and I enjoyed it, and it just took a grasp on me, and 10 years later I'm here, so
That's cool.
yeah.
So where were the sessions you first started coming to?
So I started coming to the Saturday sessions, and it was at Cleethorpes Leisure Centre. That's how long ago it
Yeah,
was.
like a judo mat and like double vault horse setup, which was pretty like low key. Like it wasn't really much we could even cover beyond the very bare minimum of basics.
Vaults, rolls, precisions,
Flips on the trumpet.
flips on the trumpet, obviously an absolute staple.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you
yes.
couldn't even teach any form of height drop, because the highest the vault would go would be shoulder height.
Jumps on beams, like gymnastic beams.
Oh, the wooden gymnastic.
We'd raised one at one point as well with carpet on.
Yeah, old
Luxury.
school wooden gymnastics beam, which was quite...
I remember as a coach finding, especially early on at the Leisure Centre, quite stressful, because the 9:30 on a Saturday first session, and there'd be like a panel. All the parents would sit along one end of the mat. Obviously, they probably didn't even care what we were doing, but especially when I'd only been coaching a few years, I find it rather intense. First thing on a Saturday morning to have a lineup of 10 or 12 parents all observing.
Oh yeah, that was back in my bar working days as well. So I was usually operating on about 2 hours sleep. Pretty tough thingy. So your intro into parkour was very basic then.
Yeah,
and it was kind of through us. And obviously you've been coming to classes for, like you said, 10 years, and this year it looks like you'll be taking the step up into becoming a coach. What is that something you always aspired to kind of go into, or do you think that's kind of just grown with your growth within the sport already?
I feel like it has grown within my love for the sport, and as I get more mature in the sport as well, I feel like it is the next step to like continuing on over the years in the sport. And I was also looking up to like my coaches, Neil, Sean, Jake,
That's very
Jack.
nice. Well, at the time, obviously, yeah, Jack used to be one of our old coaches, so yeah, I can imagine he was kind of like...
He was, obviously Jack was sort of the in-between Jazz's age and our age.
Yeah,
so
one of our younger coaches.
Yeah, it was easier to, I guess, to maybe see yourself where Jack was at the time, with him only being, probably 6 or 7 years older than you.
Ruben and Matty as well. Like, when I came to Fix and Kicks, they were always doing, like, really cool stuff, and I wanted to, like, be there.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I think it's interesting watching you now because you've been, you've been shadowing us for almost a year, I think, here, coaching. So you're leading groups with obviously one of us sort of looking over your shoulder until you're 16, which is quite soon. You're not able to actually do your level 1 and officially be a coach. But you've been doing months and months here at the academy. And it's interesting because we often have students that have the impetus to want to coach, but they don't necessarily have a great temperament to coach. But you're the opposite of that, and you've just taken it in your stride straight away. And in fact, as we all do, or as a lot of people do, when you're training on the street, or if you're inside a gym, you'll coach one another anyway, and that's how me and you got started, wasn't it? Years ago down Cleethorpes Seafront, we just coached one another. And at the time, we didn't really have much knowledge about the moves we were even trying to do. It's not as if we had studied it for years, but some people can visually look at something and be like, oh, you need to do this. You need to tuck your knees more. You need to, drive your hands up in the air, whatever it is. And you're one of those people that have just taken that quite well.
I feel like everyone in the team as well, like, grills technique into each other. Like, if someone does a pretty naff tech, then we'll, like, give feedback and say, oh, okay, that wasn't good.
Yeah.
You need to, like, do this. And it's great, and it's helped me grow in this sport so much.
Yeah, I think constructive criticism is kind of a staple of being able to progress and knowing that with the team around you that we don't sugarcoat things sometimes, and sometimes it can be a little bit like
bullying.
Yeah, some people might say that. I just think it's character building more than anything else.
But there is a lot of people within the scene with their friends. There'll be coaches that do this as well, where it's like you don't want to do something that seems mean, and you're dying for an individual that you coach to be able to do the thing, or for you to be able to say to, especially when kids are younger, you want to say, yes, you did that really well. But for me as a coach, it's like you said, sugarcoating things, or basically what we're saying here is lying to a student and say, oh, that was great, mate, when it wasn't, is actually just going to create a cognitive dissonance for the student. So I mean, it's something we've always done. It's like we're supportive coaches, but we aren't just going to say that you've got good technique with something when you haven't, And there's always room to improve in my mind. You still coach me, I still coach you. The rest of the adult team reality are constantly coaching one another. And I'm dying for that. I want people to coach me. I want someone to say, oh, you know that tic-tac, mate, if you drive your knee more, it's going to work better. Whatever it is, I'm dying for that. I want that feedback. And to be honest, it's people that have an overinflated ego, I think, that normally struggle with constructive criticism. There's been people in and around the team that have struggled with constructive criticism, and it makes it difficult to train with those individuals because you're just trying to help them, and they're taking offence just at something that is actually constructive criticism. And you've always been one of those people, Jazz, as harsh or as kind as our criticism may have been over the years. You've always taken it on board and utilise that to improve, and your movement, I think, speaks for itself these days, like, for sure.
I feel like at the Saturday sessions as well, we were all, like, dreading Neil coaching because he gave us so much of that constructive criticism. But now, as I got older and more engaged in the sport, it definitely was one of the things which helped me out the most. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously all of the coaching side of things, it can be seen with like the way you train as well, and the way like you even critique yourself and you're not quite happy with things, which was quite evident recently with your like performances within skill competitions, where it seems to be that's like your element of expertise is to be able to like hit a challenge first time or maybe even second time, but 9 times out of 10 you're hitting things first time and it's bang on the money. So it's great to see that side of mine and Neil's coaching has really paid off for you to be able to perform certain skills at the right time. And it can be seen in the way that you look at challenges, the way you actually accomplish challenges, and then also you can see it in the way that if a challenge doesn't quite go right, you come out of it unscathed because you've learned these things where you've kind of like you've bailed, but you've come out of it okay. So like the ukemi kind of side of like parkour, which is just as important as achieving challenges.
I did test how comfortable one of the walls were in the gym. Like one of the new pentagon walls, hexagon walls, yeah.
Oh, the one after the bail, you hit the deck pretty hard. I don't know how you came out of that without any form of injury. So,
but yeah, I think obviously what you're referring to, Jake, there is the recent performance. Jazz, we all went and competed at the NEPK, so the Newcastle skill and speed competition that was a few weekends ago, and Jazz competed in the under-16s. This is the last opportunity to compete in under-16s competitions because you're 16 in May. So Jazz did really well both in speed and in skill, but we thought he did particularly well in the skill competition, which was 2 rounds. There was a first round with 20 challenges, I think, and quite a long time limit. Did you have 45 minutes or an hour?
Yeah, it was a really long time for challenges.
I think you finished, I predicted, I can't remember what score I said you'd get, and I think you did get the score.
28.
And I said you'd do it in 22 minutes, and I think you actually finished in about 24. So you absolutely razzed through all of those challenges, no problem. Apart from the dive roll, but we'll come to that later.
No.
But in the finals, particularly, it was really enjoyable for me. I mean, I'm a sports fanatic. I've always been super into sports, and whilst growing as a coach in parkour, one of the things that's really sort of like got me excited is now that we're at a stage where I can actually coach people that are going into a competitive format. And it was interesting not only coaching yourself, but Oliver as well, and then also coaching all of the over 16s. So Corey, Jake, Jordan and John all took part at the NEPK comp as well. So we were all coaching one another, and it was a very enjoyable experience to be doing that, especially for yourself, Jazz, because obviously myself, you and Jake have all got a very close-knit ability to communicate. You obviously have a massive amount of trust in the things that we say that you can and can't do. So the way we approached as a unit, I thought, for the NEPK comp was really refreshing for us. I think it felt very cohesive for all of us as a team. So do you want to talk a little bit about your experience, especially in the finals of the skill comp?
Yeah, so I blasted through the first round. There was some good challenges in there, but it helped me hone in the technique for the final. And the final as well, Neil you helped me so much with even just passing me the towel, passing me the water. Like, I wasn't really communicating when I needed a drink and stuff. You just gave me it, and it was when I needed it. So,
I mean, I've done quite a few skill comps myself, outdoor ones that have been in and around the sort of Midlands, the North, Lincoln, Leeds, places like that. I've competed in the Project Underground skill comp, and we competed at Newcastle as well. And one of the things I realised, especially in the finals, when you're under pressure, you need someone to help you think. You need to have a game plan, and you need someone when you're in that haze of, oh my God, I'm under so much pressure right now, either time limit pressure or life, how many lives you've got remaining kind of pressure. And you need someone who can just say, right, you're doing this now. You've done that one, let's move on to the next. And what we all actually did at NEPK was chatted to whoever it was that was about to compete, and for the finals decided in what order you were going to attempt those 8 challenges. Yeah. So we had a hierarchy on a phone that we decided with Jazz. And also, whilst we were warming up for the finals, one of the things that's really difficult, and those of you that follow me on Instagram will know I'm a weightlifting fanatic, and I watch a lot of weightlifting competitions, and it's quite similar in the way that, as a coach, you've got to get your athlete warmed up perfectly for the moment that they're going to go out. And with a skill comp, the way most skill comp finals work, that's really flipping difficult, because you've got 15 minutes, but some people will only use 5. And some people will use all 15. And you would qualified highest, or second highest, was it? Because you went before Callum, didn't you?
Second, yeah.
So I knew there was 3 or 4 athletes in front of you, and trying to predict, were they all going to be flash in the pan 3-minute athletes, or were they going to be full 15-minute athletes? And it was quite difficult. So, I mean, I gave Jazz a decent warm-up, and then on the empty sort of floor near the actual parkour park area, I was trying to emulate setups for the challenges that I knew Jazz was going to be attempting, and it was I think it really paid off, because when you actually
definitely did, yeah,
you got out on the course and you one banged
all but
6 6 out of the 7 challenges.
Oh, yeah.
The lache prise took you 2 attempts.
2, yeah.
One
then
was just a prep though, really, wasn't it? So
And then you were left with the 360 cat, which isn't at all in your wheelhouse. If
No.
that had been me competing, I wouldn't have got the 360 cat either.
I'd have got nowhere near it. I'd have got a 360 flat spin onto the floor or something like that.
Because of our situation. Well, it wasn't really a situation, but like
our system, wasn't it?
yeah, your system and where we were being taught as well, like Cleethorpes Leisure Centre and Fix and Kicks, couldn't really practice that. So it is definitely quite a new thing to me, like 360 cats and stuff.
Yeah, I think 360s really weren't that big of a thing like early on in parkour, and I think they've
certainly-
kind of took prevalent in the past couple of years with
Yeah.
like, especially with people like Devon from Team Fat, who seems to be able to 360 and 540 and 450 everything all over the place. So
And I think it depends as well within, it's definitely a thing within your local culture of parkour, what moves are popular. And I wouldn't say that there's many people within Team Reality that have been spinny boys in, like, precision-wise, you know.
Corey and John have definitely been like pushing spinny tricks though. So like Corey on his 360 prees and stuff, he's got them on lock, and so has John with his 360 cats.
yeah,
So obviously we know that you maybe 360 cat or 360 pre isn't your favourite move. So what would you say is your kind of favourite parkour move to perform?
Well, I love side flips, so that's definitely my favourite move, and precisions are like second.
yeah. I would say some of your side flips are a bit dubious at times, but I'm not going to comment because my side flips went in the bin many moons ago. It's very rare you ever see me even try a flip nowadays, to be honest.
And it's funny you should say that, because obviously a clip that you recently had really bang on Instagram was your side flip pre to the rail that you did at the end of December.
Yeah.
At our last jam before the new year. So style-wise, like when you're training, who would you say you're sort of drawing inspiration from? Like right now, you know, today obviously you've been training for a long time, so I'm sure it's changed over the years. But right now, who would you say are your inspirations, and you know, what kind of style would you say that you train?
Well, going off the start, I didn't really watch parkour. I was like, so I didn't really have anybody to look up to apart from you lot. But now, definitely Ed Scott. I love how Ed Scott moves and all of that. Keelan as well. Keelan's just great. I love Keelan. And quite a few people from Motus, definitely. I do look up to Motus a lot. And I was devastated when they left.
Rest in peace, Motus.
Yeah, rest in peace, Motus.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely George PK, apart from the tendonitis, because I don't want tendonitis. But
No.
I
But
do love his movement.
obviously, you've recently started taking up a lot of strength training with Neil. So hopefully that'll kind of strengthen your body for these bigger impacts and bigger movements that you're taking. So we'd like to think that tendonitis is probably not going to affect you too much. But it can creep up on us all, to be
It
fair.
certainly can. I think right now one of the biggest things on your side is the fact that you weigh 52 kilograms. Jazz has now reached the point, and I knew this wouldn't be long, but Jazz has reached the point now where he's way better than I am. He can jump further than I can. He can stick things better than I can. I might have, you know, some tic-tac sort of 180 things. I might have the technique on, but Jazz's power to weight ratio is absolutely nuts. So I've been teaching, leading a strength and conditioning class twice a week this year, but we did do a winter's worth from 2021 to 22, and we've hit it again this October. So we're now like 4 or 5 months into a training block, and we're looking to retest sort of maxes in about 8 weeks' time. Jazz has recently been taking deadlifts at 102.5, I think. For
107.5.
107.5,
Yeah.
and they were for sets of 4, were they, the other day? Or was that your 5 by
5 by 5.
5 by 5? That's over double body weight. He's doing 5 by 5 with the... I'm certainly not doing 5 by 5 at double my body weight right now. And your squat, which was your favourite movement, you said to me quite a while ago, but we've recently reached a sort of ceiling with your squats. So yeah, the other night you hit 5 by 5 with 90 kilos, didn't you? And we
Yeah.
actually dropped down. You'd had a go at a set of 5 with 95, but again, approaching double body weight for 5 by 5 is absolutely insane. So I mean, when we retest, I'm probably looking at maybe 120, 130 for your squat and your deadlift, maybe somewhere about there, which, you know, it completely exceeds double body weight. And there's not many people in the parkour community, regardless of their age or their experience, that are on similar kind of ratios to that. I mean, I'm sure in your late teens you probably are going to put on a few more kilos, but right now, and you can see it in your jumps, all of your movements, your takeoffs, your landings, and the biggest thing is your landings. Like, you'll do a massive precision, and then you're able to stick it with like 30 degrees of knee bend.
Yeah,
and then,
or bounce out of it into like yet another massive jump. I'm like, where did that come from? All the time. So explosive at the moment, and it's definitely paying off the work that you're putting in, not just within parkour, but behind parkour.
Oh, so much with like the strongs. And for weightlifting, that's what we call it, strongs. But yeah, I had to clarify, strongs. But yeah, it's definitely helped a lot with my power, and like my weight power to rate ratio was sort of a thing there, but at the same time, strongs has helped so much with that and build that up.
I mean, you were always going to be a good athlete, you were always going to be powerful, you were always going to have good technique. But I think it was the perfect time. You would have been 14 when we first started doing the strength and conditioning classes, and it was just once a week for that first from October. We finished in about June, so then it means that you've got the summer to train. I work a very seasonal job, so through the summer I'm like unavailable. So we normally do October to June. You still hit a few lifts through the summer normally, but it's not as strict, and we're not on a program or anything like that. But I've definitely seen a difference in yourself, and it's great to hear that you certainly feel the difference as well. And
Yeah,
14
definitely.
years old, 13, 14 is the perfect time to start doing your strength and conditioning. Obviously, loads of people wait into their 20s, they've already picked up tendonitis, or they've ruined their ankles, and then there's something like, oh crap, maybe I should do some supplementary training here. But realistically, it should be something that's pushed more with teenagers. I mean, I know that there's a massive misnomer within strength training with children, and there's all this stuff about, oh, you shouldn't let kids lift heavy weights, it's going to do stuff to their growth plates and all of this, which is a load of rubbish. It's just got to be well programmed, same as we teach parkour. If you're not showing good technique and you're not in control of a weight, I'm not going to let you lift it, in the same way that I wouldn't let any student throw themselves at a cat leap that I know they're not going to be able to do. And that's the only thing. And I feel like all parkour gyms should be having some kind of well-programmed, well-thought-out strength training. And I don't mean strength training in the way that some of the old French people might have been strength training. I mean, I think there's a lot of...
Fat
No
drops. Love them for the
5
knees.
mile cat crawling and things like that. It's just it's not really that much of a transferable skill. In all honesty, it's not.
It was in York comp.
Well,
Well, cat crawl.
Yeah, on like
And
in
on-
particular techniques, but I mean like when we talk about like the actual transferable, like how useful that move is on the general scheme of parkour,
course,
probably isn't that useful. If anything, it probably just tires you out quite awkwardly. But obviously, I know that like Neil was saying, you've kind of hit this, you've plateaued on a little bit of your lifting, but you've kind of broken through this ceiling of like extra power, and you've unlocked this kind of like bigger jump and bigger movements. Where do you think is that kind of moulding your current aspirations in parkour? Maybe do you have any thought processes of where you want to take or set these skills off and really kind of like show what you're made of?
Well, I'm a bit of a wimp when it comes to like doing stuff, so I could definitely do a lot more than I am right now. But it's just a mental thing. I've got the physical capacity to do it. Like Cypress Trail, I want to take them outside, but there was a lot of setup going into the one in the gym, so I've definitely got to drill stuff. And if I'm not fully confident with something, my brain won't let me do it. I have to be certain with doing that, and it just won't happen if I'm not certain with it. Like, you know how long I've been doing devil drops. Like, I've been doing a lot of them recently. I want to do one outside pretty recently, and John did it easily, but my brain wouldn't let me do it. And like, I knew I could do it, but it just didn't happen.
I mean, that's just part of parkour, and whether it's just doing things at height, or what may happen if you fall, if there's awkward stuff underneath a landing or whatever it is, or if it's just literally like, because doing the skill with just hard surfaces underneath you, you've just got a bit of a block with that. I think everyone has a few moves that are like that for them, and they might even be really good at acrobatics, but there might just be one move. There's plenty of reasons to be scared of devil drops. And there's loads of people that I'm sure are in completely the same boat, because ultimately that fear reflex is something that you have to train as well, and to be honest, it's not something that we would have encouraged you to be going up against too much until the age that you're at now, and the experience, not just the age, but the experience level that you're at. I think there's way too many people that, fair enough, they might be 21, but they've only been training 3 years, and they're trying to do all of this like high consequence stuff, and it's like, you should leave that stuff to one side. You shouldn't, in my mind, you shouldn't be going up and doing like really seriously high consequence stuff until you've been training for thousands of hours. You know what I mean? Not 2 weeks, and you're trying to do backflip prees.
I could never do anything which is like relatively out of my range. Like, even with library running pre, got in my head too much. But I had done a bigger jump at more height, but I had just looked at that jump for one day and I could just do it. But it just kind of sits in your head, and it gets
almost
really
like
frustrating.
Like building movements up on a pedestal, you kind of, because it's such a target for you, you kind of then when you're at the precipice of being able to do it, you've already built it up to be this big moment. But obviously, going back to what I said just a minute ago, was like, so obviously we've touched about things that you're not so confident with, or you've got the power, but it's just matching the mental side of parkour up. So if you was to take, we're currently in March, so if you've got another 9 months of the year to go, what are your actual goals for the rest of 2023? Do you have anything you're looking towards being, right, that's something that I want to do, or like you want to just carry on doing something or whatever?
Definitely library running pre. I really want to get that. Devil drop pre sounds like a funky one. I would love to get that at some point.
It'd be one hell of a spot to find that opportunity.
But not just, we're not just talking about movement specifics. Like, obviously there's Project Underground coming up. Like, what are your actual like bigger aspirations for yourself within 2023? Not just achieving this move or that move, but like what do you want as your growth for the year?
Well, I'm terrified for Project Underground because style, there's no skill, so like I don't really train like more advanced flips much, so I'm very scared for it. But
this is under 16s we're talking about.
Yes, under 16s. Yeah, there is a skill for over 16s.
Yeah,
which I'll be competing in.
But I think Sam Kopak in last year's adult style, so I think set a precedent that it is possible to do a parkour run, so a run without loads of acrobatics, that can still score highly. And it's not like, I mean, you've got more acrobatics in your bag of tricks than Sam Kopak has, that's for sure. So it'll be interesting to see what we can assist you to build for those 2 rounds of the style. And it's always interesting to look at under 16s or age group comps in general for any sport, because you're always drawing from a smaller pool of participants. So you're not going to have, like, I mean, in men's style, in Project Underground, there might be 45 or 50 competitors. The same in skill, in fact.
And pretty much most of them have got to be able to do a double flip before they can even be like considered top 10. Like, I think that the level of like competition currently at the moment is so high. It's never been so high. No. You just look at Ellis Torhill, who's literally making moves up. And then putting them in.
I look up to Ellis as well. That's who I look up to as well.
Like putting them in like competition runs as well. They're like a lot of the things that he does are like standalone tricks that you'd be happy if you could just land that individual trick, let alone linking it to then another virtually impossible mind-bending motion that he can do.
I mean, it'll be interesting because it's 12 under 12s, I think they do, and then 12 to 16 as an age category. So obviously you're going to be one of maybe 15 athletes that are going to compete in style. So I think you do stand a good chance of getting through to the final. Obviously there's probably going to be 2, maybe 3 athletes that are more style-based athletes, whereas as we've already discussed, obviously you tend to sort of your skills go a little bit closer into a skill comp than they do a style comp. But I think you might be pleasantly surprised with how we do when it comes to Project Underground this year.
I hope so.
I think even just having a go at a style competition is a good learning experience anyway.
Sure. Well, I've never done one before, have I? So.
I think I've done one, and I think there was like a flip in mine, and it wasn't very good, to be fair. So like, it's going to be interesting to see how you go through. Do you think going down the competitive route is the route that you want to go down?
I do love competing, but I do kind of just do parkour for me. But I would definitely be open to competing quite a lot because I love. It's just how the community comes together in competitions, and like it doesn't feel like many other competitions because like everyone's together supporting each other, and like if you win, it isn't like, oh, I'll rub it in your face, like, you lost.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, well done, you did really well. So I love that part of competitions.
Yeah, I think there's always a shared atmosphere of just like, wow, what did we all just witness? You know,
yeah, definitely.
Over a weekend, such a concentrated, like, you know, hour after hour, round after round of just super high-performing athletes. And now, you know, parkour is at a stage in the UK and across the world where there are people that are 15 that are doing stuff that, you know, me and Jake are going to watch the under 16 style and be like, yeah, we couldn't do any of those top placing rounds.
Absolutely, none of that. Wow.
Like Jai.
Well, he's just an anomaly.
He is, yeah.
Is he still?
He might be over 16 now.
Surely he is.
But at the last Project Underground, he was like 14 or 15, and he's already the size of a fully grown man.
No, that's just what I was thinking.
Yeah, he's so tall and he's so strong that you can just see that he's just like already predestined to be like an absolute top qualifying athlete in years to come.
Definitely.
And one of the jumps Jai did in Sheffield, the massive one, you can like.
The like I think he's
at Hallam, isn't it?
First person
Hallam.
to do it.
Isn't it 19?
It's huge.
Yeah,
19.
I
It might
looked
even
at
be
it,
then.
and my brain didn't even comprehend it as a thing.
Yeah.
I just saw 2 walls.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be a thing.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be jumpable.
And he makes it. The thing is, he lands it. I mean, he doesn't stick it, but I don't think anyone's going to be sticking that kind of distance. But he handles the landing like really well.
Really well.
He overdoes it.
Yeah, but in the right way, not like a
Yeah.
bad way. Yeah.
Like Kong's, I think his side Kong's out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, thinking about movements, one of the questions we like to ask all of our guests is, well, obviously we can wrap up from here. But what is your parkour or free running pet peeve? What is the one thing where if you see someone doing it, you're like, ugh, really angry, like internal, not happy with?
Irrelevant movement.
Ooh. Can you elaborate on what you mean by irrelevant movements?
So where like people go, oh, I'm just gonna like half step speed on a wall.
The 180 step speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the like DD roll, the unnecessary
DD roll, yeah.
Yeah. There's so many more moves that can be done.
You're falling onto the floor and doing a 180, mate. Like, no need for it. Just
obviously this was a hot
Yeah.
topic a couple of months ago after the FIG World Championships. And I think Jacob Paul absolutely nailed it when he did his little run in the play park, and I think he called that move where you just turn and slap the bottom of your foot on a vertical wall. I think he referred to them as tiki-takis, which I think is just the most perfect name for those. So brilliant parkour pet peeve, irrelevant movement.
Yeah, I like that. That's very much one that I think a few people will be able to relate to.
Despise it.
So to finish things up, if anyone is interested and is not already following Jazz, you should get over to Instagram. His handle is @JazzMccready _reality. One of our freshly sponsored athletes. He is making a splash, and he is a name you will not soon forget.
Thank you.
For sure.
Bosh!
Yes, I'm going to spend the rest of my